I want to begin. So we're going to talk about engaging the imagination through allegory. Even if you don't plan to write an allegory, this is going to be super helpful for you, and you'll see why. But I'm going to go through the gateway or doorway of allegory to get to some really important thoughts on story and creativity. So I want to begin by asking you, and I can actually see some of you now who are, who don't just have a picture up, but I want you to begin by closing your eyes. And when your eyes are closed, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'll have you open your eyes back again. But close your eyes, and I want you to think of the story that you're working on, the one you're most excited about. So just picture that story in your mind's eye. What is the story that you're most excited about? Just get a visual for that, okay? All right, now open your eyes. And here's my question. Were you seeing in your mind's eye right then the story that you're writing or the story of you that you're living right now? Because most writers are far more excited and think it's a far better story that they're creating than actually their own story that they're living. They think their own life story, that they're living is kind of dull or disappointing or too routine, but the story they're writing is really cool and fantastical and amazing, right? And you do want to create stories that have those ingredients in them. But what I want to tell you tonight is we need to address the fact that the story we're living should be more exciting and more dynamic than the stories that we create. So, yes, the stories we create, have a lot of intensity and action and drama and supernatural perhaps and sci-fi, but our lives have supernatural or should in them and a lot of action and adventure and mystery with God. And so I believe it's a lie of the enemy that says the story we're living is boring and we have to get excited about the story that we're typing or creating on paper or our laptop. When we start to see the story we're living is the most exciting story of those two, then the story we're writing actually gets more and more and more powerful. But it starts with believing I live in this story where there's a seen reality, a seen realm, and an unseen realm. And God is inviting me into things that have never been done before, never been discovered before, through my voice, through my intimacy with Him, through union with Jesus. So when we start stepping into those waters, man, that is super exciting. There's a lot of risk, a lot of unknown, a lot of mystery, but it's not boring, it's not dull. And so I do that opening exercise to say, first, start to see the story you're living as more exciting than the story you're writing. Not because you go, on trips around the world or cruises all the time, but because you're living it with God. And because God is doing amazing things in your life, like He did with Paul, Esther, all the great people, Joseph, Daniel, right? All of the great people of the Bible, Deborah, Mary, like you're living in today's story that has continued from those times. So see your story that way. But here's the deal. We've lost our story, or at least key parts of it. And by that, I mean, when we look at the story we're living, it's easy to misunderstand that story, to misinterpret it. And a lot of times it's kind of a delusion or a fog on the importance of their own story. So where I want to start tonight is an exploration of our true story. What is the true story that we're stepping into as a writer, as a co-creator with God? What is that story? And what are we believing about it? Because listen, I've said this a million times probably, but you can never write a better story than you're living. Your characters can't understand love or risk or sacrifice or faith more than you do. Your characters can't that you're putting on paper can't somehow know more about God than you know about God. They like they're limited by you as the creator. And so your story matters before the story on, you know, that you're creating out of your memory and mind and imagination. Your life story matters deeply.